Good day to all of you. My name is Neetu Harkishindas Binwani, and I'm glad to be sharing this deck of slides with you, which is basically the outcome of a recent research that I carried out. So the title of the research is a study to identify intrinsic factors influencing job motivation of employees in the hotel industry in Malaysia. This is a specific case study on THKL, which is a five-star hotel in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So the hospitality industry is one of the key industries and GDP contributors in majority of the countries today. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, the hospitality industry is the main driver in global value creation. In Malaysia, the travel and tourism industry contributed about 11.7% towards the national GDP in 2019 and thus justifies the significance of this industry as a viable economic contributor to the national economy and thus the choice of this research area. The focus of this research will be the hotel industry in Malaysia with a specific focus on THKL, which is a five-star business traveler hotel in the heart of Kuala Lumpur. Now, according to a report by Grant Thornton, the first half of the year 2020 saw a drastic drop in occupancy rates of hotels around the world. In Malaysia, the situation is not very distinct. Now, during the initial MCO in March 2020, the monthly average occupancy rates or AOR was estimated to be as low as 20%, resulting in an estimated monthly average loss of room revenue of about 624 million over the similar period. Now, according to a local daily, hotels in Kuala Lumpur saw the highest number of pay cuts, unpaid leaves, and layoffs for its employees. So this figure here on the right shows the AOR, which is very low during this period and which is quite shocking at the same time. The next slide will show us the number of pay cuts and paid leaves and layoffs for hotels around Malaysia, with Kuala Lumpur having the highest numbers. Now, coming to THKL, the company itself has been seeing a significant attrition rate over the years. And in 2020, it can be seen that a significant contributor towards this rate is from the middle management. These are the research questions, research objectives, and research hypothesis for this research. The research objectives, questions, and research hypothesis is revolved around four variables, which will be tested to see if they would influence job motivation of employees at THKL. These four factors are basically the intrinsic factors that has been selected. Now, why this study? Why is this study important, right? So based from the findings of this research, this would contribute towards talent management and retention at THKL and the hospitality industry at large. And at the same time, while the company rolls out these strategies, they would also be able to obtain feedback from employees who would then act as an input to the HR team, who would then again devise effective human resource strategy, and that would be the output. The area of motivation here is important because it is a component that supports performance. It is a component that is important to allow companies to perform, to allow individuals to perform, to allow teams to perform. Now, in arriving at the independent variables or even the very core components of the hypothesis, various theories and models have been reviewed, starting from Maslow hierarchy of needs theory, the self-determination theory, and a new theory which is the Daniel Pink's motivation theory. So in all the theories that have been reviewed, the focus has been on intrinsic factors. So the components that have been selected for to act as the independent variable for this research or even contribute towards the hypothesis of this research are the components in red boxes. So we can see the components here would be competence, autonomy and relatedness from the self-determination theory, and the component of purpose from Daniel Pink's motivation theory. Now, this slide basically shares with us the list of literatures that I had reviewed in the course of this research, and this is just a summary of it. So in this slide, we'll be looking at the 5 main researches which basically revolve around the first 3 independent variables, that is autonomy, competence, and relatedness. The box on the extreme right, which is boxed in red, basically highlights the knowledge gap or limitation of the studies. And these basically then form a basis of the current research. These researchers then also focus on the 4th component, which is the purpose component or the 4th independent variable. Here's a summary of all the 16 literatures that were reviewed. And as you can see, there's been very limited study of autonomy in Malaysia, very limited study of relatedness needs in Asia or even in East Asia, and very limited study on the sense of purpose in Asia. So this acts as a knowledge gap and supports the area of this research. These are the various knowledge gaps that were identified. As you can see, the independent variable on sense of purpose has not even been tested widely, especially in Asia. There's been limited study on relatedness need in Asia. There's been limited study on autonomy in Malaysia. And some of the past researchers had only focused on top or middle management with no involvement of the lower management. This is the conceptual framework that was drafted, and the independent variables basically are from the underpinning theories that form the basis of this research. So as you can see, the component of autonomy, competence, and relatedness are from the self-determination theory by Ryan and Dacey, and the concept or the idea of sense of purpose is from Daniel Pink's motivation theory. And the dependent variable here is job motivation. Now, how was this research carried out? It was a quantitative research via primary data collection through distribution of questionnaires to the employees of THKL, and the research instrument constructs were basically adopted or adapted from various literatures. Smart PLS version 3.3.3 was used to analyze the data collected. Now, when it came to population and sampling method, Rausoff was used as a sample size collector. And as you can see, the components here and the sample size that was arrived at was 99. Based on 286 employees of THKL, the sample size was 99. So 110 questionnaires were distributed, out of which 11 questionnaires were rejected, and 99 questionnaires were then used for data analysis. So this table on the right basically shows the sample size head count and also the sample size based on the respondents who had responded to the questionnaire. Upon gathering the data, it was analyzed, and this is a slide on the various descriptive analysis. Figure 8 basically displays the breakdown of respondents by gender, and as you can see, majority of the respondents are males, and majority of the respondents are within a certain age group from 25 up to 40. And in terms of education level by employee type, as per figure 10, majority of the blue-collar employees only have a high school qualification, whereas for the white-collar employees, they do have a diploma and a degree. And based on figure 11, majority of the blue-collar employees have only 1 to 5 years of working experience, whereas the employees, the white-collar employees, have between 6 to 20 years of work experience. Subsequently, the inferential analysis was also carried out, the reliability test, and to measure internal consistency in the scale items of the data, I had conducted the composite reliability test. So according to the analysis, the composite reliability test for all the 3 groups of respondents, the total group of employees, the white collar and the blue collar, indicate a value exceeding 0.70, which indicates reliable model constructs. So this can be seen from both the tables here in as table 9 and table 10. In this slide, these are the four hypotheses that were used to test the four components. So we have the four hypotheses, which basically states there is a positive relationship between autonomy needs and job motivation of employees at the hotel. There is a positive relationship between competency needs and job motivation of employees at THKL. There is a positive relationship between relatedness needs and job motivation of employees at THKL. And finally, there's a positive relationship between sense of purpose and job motivation of employees at THKL. So as you can see from table 11 and table 12, for the white collar respondents, there is a positive relationship between sense of purpose and job motivation as evidenced by the positive t-test scores and p-values. And in terms of the blue collar respondents, the same measurements, I would say the positive measurements can be seen in terms of competence and sense of purpose. So in short, in conclusion, autonomy is not a driver of job motivation for both the white collar and blue collar respondents. Relatedness need is not a driver of job motivation for both the white collar and blue collar respondents. Competency is a driver of job motivation for the blue collar respondents due to their roles as frontliners. Competency is not a driver of job motivation for the white collar respondents. A sense of purpose is definitely a driver of job motivation for both the white collar and blue collar respondents. In terms of implications and recommendations from this research, it has two implications, namely academic and managerial implication. In terms of academic implication, there is future application of the SDT theory and Daniel Pink's motivation theory in future researches. They can also involve a study of sense of purpose at work and the mapping of the individual motivation factors to an organization's consciousness level at looking at the Barrett model. In terms of managerial implication, talent management in terms of recruiting talented and competent workforce, including gig workers, talent management, including retaining talented and competent workforce, and contributing towards a move towards purpose-driven businesses. In terms of recommendations, THKL can introduce educational opportunities for blue-collar employees of THKL, understanding employee sense of purpose and providing related opportunities, and finally redefining the organization's sense of purpose. In the course of carrying out this research, I had developed a new model called the motivation cycle from needs orientation to consciousness orientation. So as you can see the diagram at figure 12, on the left hand side is the needs factor and on the right hand side is the consciousness factor. So from the needs level, an individual or an employee moves from pay to place to people to position to purpose and possibility. So the various sources of these components are in table 13 as you can see on the left. And once an employee hits the possibility phase, he then or she goes through a similar cycle, but then each component goes through a redefinition. So I'm going to take you through this in the next slide. Now, under the needs orientation, the component of pay, place, people, and position are similar to what Maslow had highlighted in his Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Purpose is as per Daniel Pink's motivation theory. But when an employee hits the component or the space of possibility, all the above components, as we discussed, goes through a redefinition, and then it evolves to become consciousness orientation. So the table on the right basically explains all the other components, but if you see, the difference is it is no more about an individual, it's no more about an individual's position or place or pay. It is the whole space has evolved to expand to not only limit oneself to just one's needs, but to also include the needs of the masses. With this, we have come to the end of this presentation, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching and listening to this presentation. Thank you.